4 months old to 12 years old, okay? She was a teacher before Premier and is very happy to work from home, being that mom, jewelry diva, and she is a diva, and she's a senior leader for Diamond. Let me introduce to you my friend, Barb.
Can you guys hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay. I don't like microphones. I like them just talk. Yes. I have props too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to be sharing with you guys how to work with your people. How to work with your people, how to mold them to be independent jewelers and not dependent children. Because that is our goal. Now, as a mother, I could go off and do a whole nother parenting thing. You're going to see a lot of parallels between being a jewelry mom and being a mom. And sometimes we like to confuse, and we like to be a mom when we really need to be a jewelry mom. So we're going to talk today about how to be an effective jewelry mom so that your end result is independent jewelers, not dependent children. And so I want to just share with you just a quick couple minutes to give you a little background on me. Yes, I've been in Premier for 12 years. Yes, I have 5 children. When I first started Premier, I had a 6-month-old. I was a volleyball player. I was a volleyball coach, involved in church, involved in Bible study. I was one of those giant platter people. I've always been a platter person. So just adding one more thing to my platter was okay with me. Throughout the years, I've added more children. I was divorced. I was a single mom for a couple of years. I remarried, had more children. In the last 4 months, I had my 5th child. She, for the first 8 weeks of her life, was a very difficult baby. Very much, she cried more than she smiled. One of those. Come to find out she had an allergy. Thank goodness we found that out, and now she is a happy baby. Right about the time that she became happy and life started to balance out and I started to smile again, I had this weird thing happen to my finger. There's a reason why I'm telling you all this. I had this weird thing happen to my finger, which made me not able to use it. And I'm right-handed, and so not being able to use my right index finger led into not being able to use my right hand, so I was changing diapers left-handed. I was trying to do jewelry shows like this, using my pinky to clasp jewelry. Yeah, it was real fun. Then I had this big giant wrap because this tumor-like thing that I had on my finger kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I had to have surgery. I had 2 weeks where I couldn't use my hand at all, and I had to keep it up like this for 2 weeks. Okay, so you can imagine 5 children, running a business, trying to do shows, and I can't use my hand. Then I get my stitches out. And when I tell you that it was the worst pain of my life, and I've had 5 children naturally, I'm not lying when I say this little finger, the worst pain of my life. Okay, so I'm setting the stage for the fact that as a leader, when you're training your jewelers, you've got to keep it simple and you've got to keep it duplicable. Because how many people in this room can say that all you do is eat, sleep, and drink Premier? You have nothing else on your plate except Premier. You're not a mom, you're not a wife, you're not involved in anything else except Premier. Right, nobody. And nobody that you sponsor will be in that same boat. So you've got to keep it simple, duplicable, with the result of creating independent jewelers. So that's what I'm sharing with you today, because through all of that, through my 12-year journey, it's never been easy. There's never been a moment in my life where I could just think about Premier 24 hours a day because there's nothing else on my plate. No, there's always been something. There's always been a lot of somethings. And I've been able to work a business through all of those somethings. And I've been able to train other jewelers through all of those somethings. And just more recently, I've become even more simple than ever before, just because of adding that 5th child has really added a 5th child. It's a little crazy. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today. Is that going to be helpful to you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So what I like to do with my new jewelers, and I have this thing that I created, it's called the New Jeweler Training Timeline. And if this is something that you would like me to email to you, I would be more than happy to do that. I'm going to give you my email address and ask you to just pop me a quick email, and when I get home, I will go ahead and send it out to you guys. My email address is jewelrydiva, all ladima320@gmail.com. Now, this checklist, this timeline is for you, is for the sponsoring jeweler. You don't give this to your jeweler that you sponsor. This is for you. This is for your ability to check off as you're doing all of these things with them. This breaks it down into all the different get-togethers that I have with my new jewelers. Because what I have found is if you put hours upon hours of time into a jeweler and they wind up doing nothing beyond their training show, you're going to become resentful. You're going to start thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I putting all this time and energy into people when nothing's coming from it? I'm just not going to sponsor anyone. And you don't want that to be your end result. At the same time, you don't want to shortchange someone either. And so what I have found with this is that it works. It works for everyone across the board, and you're going to see why as I walk you through it. And then once you get to the end of this, then at the very end of this training process, you're going to then mirror their activity. So what you do after this initial training process will determine, or what they do will determine what you then do with them from there on out. Does that make sense? Whether you link arms and skip side by side with them, or whether you encourage and I'm here when you need me, kind of thing. Okay? So the first get-together that I do with my new jeweler, I call it session 1. I go to her house. And I do this for a reason. What Sherry was talking about, building that relationship, really getting to know your jeweler, getting to know their temperament, getting to know their personality. Because again, you might think that they're one way, but the more you get to know them, the more questions you ask, you'll realize that it's just a facade. Sanguine and choleric, those are my two. But I'm more choleric than I am sanguine, which a lot of people don't realize that. Because the old Barb was very much, woo! Because I was hurting on the inside. And so it was really easy for me to distract from that by being the loud person. And so since I've been able to take that mask off, business Barb has come to play. And I like letting business Barb come out because that's who I am to my core. But I can still dance with the best of them. Okay, so then that first session, I want to get to know my jeweler. I want to ask her some more questions. I want to find out her goals. So you need to be doing that. You need to be asking her, what does she want to get out of her business? If her husband is around, you need to make sure that he's involved with this, or that you encourage her to then talk with him and create goals according to what they want together. Because you don't want to leave him on the platform and let the train, leave the station. You want him to be on that train as well. Even if he's just a passenger at first, you need him on the train. He cannot be left behind. Okay? During that, finding out her why and her goals and things like that, then I'm also going to give her a new jeweler folder. And this is what I bring. This is what I give to my new jewelers. Inside this bag, this is one of their gifts. I'm not, gift giving is not my love language. Receiving gifts, giving gifts. But I want to give them something fun. And I think a bag, that has zebra and hot pink that's my fun. And I explained to them that it's also useful because they can put their catalogs in here, and it's a fun way to transport their catalogs and all of their show supplies. In here, I also have the new jeweler folder that I give them, which I'm going to go through in just a minute. And then they get 3 more things. And these are all organizational type things. Because a huge fear and a huge crutch for a lot of new jewelers is, how do I organize myself? If they're melancholy and super duper organized, they're going to over-organize themselves. They're going to stress them out because they're going to do too much. If they're sanguine or if they're phlegmatic, they're not going to even think about organizing. And so that's going to be a problem too. So I'm going to teach them, you got to either simplify, sweetheart, or you need to do something. But you've got to be organized. And so these are just a few things that I give them. I give them a little mileage log and tell them the importance of that. And all these things were in the dollar section in Target, by the way. So these are not expensive little gifts. They get their first set of thank you notes to thank their first 8 hostesses. And this is a receipt organization file. It's one of those things that has all the different things. And I'm going to go through the different, what should be on her different tabs and how to keep organization of her receipts. Simple. That's all she has to worry about right now, really, realistically. She doesn't need to have an office set apart just for Premier when she's first beginning. I had egg crate when I first started. And in my egg crate had everything else, everything in it that I needed. And so it doesn't need to be. Okay, so while I'm in this first session, I'm going to be giving her gifts, and then I'm going to go through this folder with her. And this is really important. And what I put in here, in the first pocket, it's going to be, and I'm going to go through these quickly, because again, I don't need to go through all of them with you. A lot of them are self-explanatory. But the welcome letter with all of my contact information and their whole upline. Okay, and so I'm going to explain when I go through this page, just real briefly, that you have 3 levels above you that are here to help and encourage you and to mentor you, and we're all here to answer all of your questions. So if you can't get a hold of me, you can call Elizabeth. If you can't get a hold of her, you can call Kelly. So I stress that from the very beginning. Again, I don't want her to be so dependent on me that if I let her down, she's going to lose her faith in Ladimir. You cannot allow you to be the only person that your jeweler interacts with in the upline. You need to be okay with the fact that they might call your upline instead of you sometimes. Like, you got to be okay with that. I love that. I love when they call them, because all 3 of us, and you'll probably find this, you and your upline are probably all different temperaments with all different personalities. And so it's good for them to be getting encouragement and ideas and verbiage from 3 different people. Okay, so I'm going to start off with that. Then I'm going to give her the calendar of events, because we are an event-driven business. She has got to plan to be at these events. If she's doing well with her business, we need her there to encourage others. If she's not doing so well, she needs to be there to be encouraged. So these events, I'm going to get them on her calendar. I remember Elizabeth, if you guys don't know who Elizabeth Mahusai is, she is very choleric. She actually took my calendar and wrote the training dates on it for me. I don't do that. That's a little much. But I do kind of in a way do that when I say take these, and these need to go on your calendar before you start booking home shows. So we do that. The next thing that I'm going to go through with her is my list of contests that I do for her. Everyone's a little bit different. This is the extent of my gift giving to my new jewelers. The bag and these 3 little things cost less than $10. It's like $6 for all this, okay? Y'all might think I'm cheap, okay? But no, here's the thing. These are my contests, and throughout these contests, they're going to have a chance to earn $150 in free jewelry, a pack of catalogs, and a set of business cards. I'm very generous, and I like to give, but you got to work. You got to earn these gifts. And so that's why I like to do it like this. I want to start simple, because I'm not just going to hand them the farm without seeing where they're at, without seeing where their commitment is to their business. Whether or not they complete these challenges is a really good indication what they want to get out of their business. And so these are very specific challenges. There's a purpose for every single one that I do. Happy to email this to you as well, so you can kind of see what they are. The biggest one, and the one that to me is the most important, and I tell this to her too, is the contact challenge. You guys have probably heard this before, it's nothing new, but I want her to contact me after her first 8 shows. And I explained to her, yes, I have a lot of people on my team, but that doesn't mean that I'm too busy for you. My job is to motivate you, to encourage you, to be there for you however you need me to be. And I won't know where you're at and what you need, and if you're struggling, unless you communicate with me. I'm not a mind reader. And so I add $50 in free jewelry if she just calls me after her first 8 shows. It's not that difficult. This is the most important. I'm actually considering upping this to $100 in free jewelry because of the fact that this, to me, is make or break their business, these first 8 shows. Through that conversation that I have with her, there's 5 questions that we're going to talk about. How many were in attendance? Did the hostess get her pre-orders? What were the sales? How many bookings did you get on your calendar? And was there any interest in the business? So we're going to be talking about all 5 of those things. And I share with her, this is not so that I can check up on you. This is not so that I can make sure that you're doing things my way. This is so that if you're struggling with something, we need to nip it right now before you get into show number 5 or 6 and now you're too discouraged. If you're struggling with bookings, if you have people interested in the business, let's get them in front of the opportunity, as opposed to finding out at show 8, well, she had people 3 weeks ago that were interested in the business. It's too late now, a lot of times. It's too late to go back and do that. And so we've got to get it right away. So that's that's why the contact challenge to me is super important. The sad thing is, only about maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 will do the contact challenge. And so this tells me a lot. The thing is, you've got 2 arms. You don't have 8 arms for a reason. Okay, we're not made to be able to devote tons of time and energy to 8 different people at once. 2 at a time. You have 2 arms to link with 2 people. If you're sponsoring 10 people a year, which is what I encourage you at this level in your business, builder, designer, you shouldn't just be looking just to sponsor 7. You've got to be at that 10 mark every single year. That should be your initial goal. Of those 10, odds are you're going to have 2 that want to work. And that's who you link with, and that's who you run with. And you can build a solid business by linking with 2 people and growing them to designer, and the next year linking with 2 more people and growing them to designer, and the next year. That's how you can build a solid business. Okay, thank you. Woo, excited. Okay, then I just go through some basics, things that she needs to be responsible for her training show. And we talk about my responsibility and her responsibility. Again, I'm not doing everything for her. I'm giving her little bits at a time. I don't want to overwhelm her, but I also don't want her to sit back and just have me do everything, because then when she goes to do her very first show, she's going to be clueless. And so we're doing a little bit of responsibility. Again, I can email all this to you guys so you can see what I'm telling her to do. Then we go into, housekeeping stuff, like how do I accept credit cards in my business, and, things like that. Okay, then I've got a little form here that says, how well do you know your product? And it's just some product knowledge information. And again, I can email this to you as well. But this is good because the more confident she is in the jewelry and in what we have to offer, the more confident she's going to be at her shows. Then there's verbiage, how do I get bookings, working your calendar, okay, things like that. The outline of the type of show that I'm going to do for her, along with the booking activity that I'm going to train her in, all of that is in there so that she can start preparing for that, because her goal, and this is what I tell her, there's a lot of things that you're going to need to figure out in this business, and all of that will come with time. There's a big learning curve for those first couple of months that you're in Premier. But your focus right now is to be the best hostess that you can be for your training show and to get as many bookings on your calendar. That is your primary focus, nothing else. Because you don't have a business if you don't have bookings. Bookings are the foundation of that business. So don't try to teach her everything that you know right away. Right now, you should be teaching her what she needs to know for her training show and how to get bookings. Everything else will happen piece by piece by piece. Okay, like Sherry was saying, if you have a sanguine or a phlegmatic on your hands and they have a plate that's this big, you're going to overwhelm them, scare them, and paralyze them. Right? So you need to think about that. And then in the other pocket, there's just some more organization, tax information, balance sheets, a hostess checklist, for how to contact your hostess, things like that. And I tell her, these are just some extra tools you may or may not want to use. And I say, we're going to talk about these as time goes on. I just wanted to put these in here for you, and I don't take a whole lot of time to talk about them. The last thing that I have in here, I call this my brain. This is 3 pages of my brain. Just lots of different random tips. Put this in your bathroom, and when you have a couple minutes of uninterrupted time, this is what you can look through. Okay? Sometimes I can be a little inappropriate, but it works. Okay. So we go through that, and then the very last thing that I'm going to do with her is I'm going to hostess coach her. Because as you guys know, hostess coaching and hostess coaching properly can be the difference in a good show or a bad show, in keeping a show or losing a show, in having a hostess turn into a jeweler and having a hostess go and book with someone else next time. So a lot of things rise and fall and start with hostess coaching. So I'm going to teach her how to do that and explain to her why I do that. And then I'm going to actually hostess coach her for her training show. Okay, so all that is done in that first get together. Okay, after that, between that meeting and her training show, okay, we're going to be in touch. We're going to be either texting or calling each other or communicating throughout that. If I don't hear from her, I'm going to be in touch with her, okay? 2 to 3 days before the training show, I'm going to give her that reminder, just like I would to a regular hostess, to give her that reminder of, to make your follow-up phone calls, and how's the advanced orders coming along? You still have a couple of days left to get that. All that stuff. That's my communication with her. Then the actual training show. Now, normally for a show, I don't know about you, but I usually arrive about 45 minutes early, 40 to 45 minutes early for a show, so that I have plenty of time to set up and I'm not rushed. For a training show, I usually arrive an hour and a half early. I don't want to be there 2 or 3 hours early. I'm not hanging out, having a meal with her family. Okay? You don't want to, again, remember, you need to present yourself as duplicable. She's not going to want to sponsor if she thinks that sponsoring means she's going to always have to be away from her family. Keep that in mind too, especially if you have someone who is a big family person. You don't want them thinking that they always have to be gone. They always have to be doing things. An hour and a half is more than enough time. Okay? When the show is over, you don't need to be there 2 hours after the show either. She's done. Her brain is max capacity. Training does not need to happen after the training show, the night of the training. It just doesn't. Stop. Stop giving. She's not going to retain anything that you're saying anyway. Okay? And again, you're not being duplicable. So the training show, I get there early. I help her put out snacks. I give her the responsibility of setting up her jewelry for a couple reasons. Number one, I ain't got time to do that. That's not. If I have to pick and choose the things that I'm going to do as her mentor, that's not one of them. Guess what? There's a picture that comes in the kit that shows her how to set up her jewelry. You don't have to be there and do it for her. You don't have to tag her jewelry with her or anything like that. She's a big girl. She can do all that all by herself. Okay? So that's a good job. Now, if I get there and it looks like jewelry just threw up everywhere, I might offer some suggestions, for how to make the table look approachable, for how to make the table look pleasing, so that it doesn't stress people out when they walk up to the table and they're like, everything's touching. Okay? So you can give tips, but you don't have to do it for her. I'm going to help her with snacks. If she's real stressed out, then I'm going to help her, get her snacks out. But again, I've already coached her to keep it simple. I purposely plan my shows and plan my training shows at times where she does not have to create a meal. It's either going to be dessert time or it's going to be snack time, but it's never meal time. So I don't encourage meals at all. If I have a hostess who's thinking that, of course, you can't tell her what to do, but I encourage her not to do that for a couple of reasons. For her sake, but also, again, along the whole, duplication thing. If she's going to get her 3 bookings, her friends need to think, I should do this too. But if she has the Golden Corral buffet set out, they're going to think, that's not my gift. I can't do a show because this is what's going to be expected of me. Okay, so you got to start by teaching her that so that she teaches her people that. Okay, at the show, what I like to do, of course, I'm going to do the whole presentation for her. But I want her at the very beginning, being the jewelry lady, welcoming people in, getting them to the table, just like I would have my hostess do. I want her doing that. I'm watching how she interacts with people. I'm watching what she says. I'm observing her. Along with helping, I'm also listening and observing because we're going to talk about that, after the fact. And then during checkout, I'm going to do the first couple orders for her. I'm going to have her stand next to me. She's going to hear what I say. She's already going to have her calendar out, and it's already going to be pre-marked with when she wants to do shows. I have all my jewelers do that. That's one part of their homework before the training shows, to have her calendar pre-marked. That way she hears me get dates on the calendar for her. So I do the first couple, and then we switch places, and then I watch her do the next couple. So again, I model first, and then I let her do the rest. I'm not going to do it all, though, because then her very first show without me there is when she's going to be doing checkout, and checkout can be very overwhelming. And so this way, I'm right there next to her. If she forgets to say something, I might, kind of jump in and, say a little something, but you don't want to overpower her. You don't want to make her feel less than what she is, and you don't want to, you may not be doing this on purpose, but if you're talking over your jeweler, then you're putting her down in front of her friends, okay? And you don't want to do that, because they need to see her as the confident jewelry lady, okay? So you need to, as you're speaking and as you're training, make sure that you're training in an uplifting way and not in a way that overshadows her, okay? You want to empower her. Okay, so that is the training show. The next time we get together is going to be, I'm going to have her come to my house. So I've gone to hers twice. and then she comes to my house for the last meeting. That's only 3 times that I'm meeting with my new jewelers, okay? Oh, 5 minutes left. Okay, I'm gonna have her come to my house, and here's what we're gonna do. Usually she comes to my house somewhere within the next couple of days after her training show. We're gonna recap the training show. We're gonna close her out using the hostess order form so that she knows how to use that order form. You don't realize how many jewelers that I've talked to over the years that their sponsors never went over the hostess order form with them. Okay, and they have no clue how to use a hostess order form, how to figure out the free jewelry. Some people weren't even collecting tax from their hostess because they didn't realize that they had to. Make sure you're using the hostess order. Whether you use the hostess order forms or not, a lot of people that use Hidden House don't use hostess order forms anymore, and actually you can fill them out. Make sure you're teaching your new jeweler to do that. So once we've closed that out, I've helped her pick out her jewelry, given her some suggestions. Again, you want her to be independent, but she's going to want your input because you're the knowledgeable one. Then you want to practice her show. And so we're going to role play. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be her jewelry show. And I'll be different voices just to kind of make her, a little more at ease, because it's very nerve-wracking for a new jeweler to role play in front of their sponsor. And so if I have to, I'll hide behind the couch while she's talking so that she's not looking at me. I've done that before. Like I literally crouched down behind the couch so that she didn't see me, but she knew that I was there listening. It's just me and her in the room. It was so silly, but it worked. And so we're going to role play. Now, jewelers they may not be interested in role playing, but you've got to. I used to just give that option to them. If you want to practice your show, then you can come over. Now I say, okay, at the training show, I say, all right, when in the next couple of days would it be good for you to come to my house, and so we can practice your show before your very first show. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to be confident in what you're doing, and this is going to be your way to learn your show forwards and backwards, backwards and forwards, before you ever get in front of people. So when is a good time for you to come over? So it's not an option. And so we're going to go through that. We're going to practice her booking activity, okay, all those things. After that, now, all we're doing is communicating, okay? And so the 3 meetings are done, and now we're just communicating. Hopefully, she's calling me after her first 8 shows. But if she's not, about halfway through her quick start is when I'm going to follow up with, hey, how are things going? How are those shows going? And find out what's going on. I'm going to remind her of trainings, send friendly text message reminders, Facebook reminders, whatever. When her quick start is over, again, if she's not communicating with me, that'll be the next time that I give her a call and find out, okay, your quick start is over. What does your calendar look like? And we're going to talk more. Have your goals changed? See, when you find out what her goals and what her why is at the beginning, you can revisit that. At any time in her business, you can revisit that. And it's not because you're telling her what to do, it's you reminding her and encouraging her of the original goals that she voiced at the very beginning. And so if she's not living up to that, it's not about you saying, well, you're not reaching your goals that you set for yourself. It's have those goals changed. Has your why changed? Tell me what's going on, and asking more questions to find out how, from this point forward, we can go from there. And like I said at the very beginning, the last thing that I'm going to leave you with, after you've gone through this whole process, the most important thing you can do is just mirror her. If she's coming to everything, if she's doing shows, if she's still contacting you after those 8 shows are over, and she's still calling to let you know, I still call Elizabeth from time to time and tell her how my show went. Because we have that kind of relationship now, and I still want input. So you want that. You want that relationship with your jewelers. And so you just need to mirror that. You cannot want it more for them than they want it for themselves. Okay? A struggling jeweler will pull you down. Will take your focus away from all the other people that you should be focusing on by focusing on your struggling one. Okay? You cannot let yourself be pulled down by struggling jewelers. You need to try to pull them up, and if they're not coming up, I love you, I'm gonna pray for you, but you gotta move on. And I know that might sound mean. It's not mean, okay? It's not. You're only crippling her more by coddling her. Oh, it's okay. It's not okay. Put your big girl panties on. You can do this. Okay? That's pretty much it. I think we're going to have some question and answer time later, potentially. But that's my encouragement to you. make independent jewelers, not dependent jewelers. I'm happy to email all of this to you and go into any more depth that you would like individually. So that's it. My time is up.